Hello and welcome to episode 108 of the HamCorp training manual. In this episode, we take a trip to Barnarda C, set up seaweed generation, build a neutronium compressor, craft our first infinity ingot, and finish about half of the biocircuit variants. Back to work. I have crafted up everything I need to make the matter fabrication CPU. It wasn't too difficult now that I have advanced nitinol. I had to make these containment casings. This required a quantum anomaly, but you get 32, so it's a pretty good deal. Besides that, everything else is pretty fine. Nothing weird, nothing new. Except the scan needs research on containment fields. But this is a very simple crafting recipe. Now I can probably get rid of all these LUV mass fabricators and also my EV one, but maybe I'll keep them for now because my UU matter demand at the moment is kind of high because all the space elevator parts need a ton of UU matter. So I think I'll just leave this in place and I'll just build this over here. This thing's pretty big. It's kind of super in the way. It does need program circuit 1 to make UU matter out of nothing. If I had UU amplifier, I could do it with program circuit 2, which is a lot faster. And I think I can actually make that in this mass fabricator if I had scrap. But I'm not going to worry about that. Let's see how fast this thing is. It's about 1 per second. That's slow. That's pretty slow. To be fair, each one of these is about 1 per 5 seconds. So one of these is like having 5 of these, but it uses slightly less EU, and it's easier to upgrade just by switching the hatch. So it might be good for me to use like a UV hatch or something and make multiple of these. Yeah, I'll think about it. In the meantime, I have plenty of raw biocatalyst medium now, which means I can look into automating seaweed. This is done by using seaweed broth, and seaweed broth needs another bacterial vat, energium dust, mitral dust, and, regular seaweed. It also needs unknown nutrient agar, and that is made in a chem reactor with agar, stem cells, salt, unknown liquid, phthalic acid, and meat extract. Meat extract is just extracted meat, but unknown liquid, I need to set up a pump on Barnarda C, or Barnarda C in the game, but that shouldn't be too hard. I'm also going to need this stuff for trying to get this petri dish, which is also used in this recipe. So I need to go set up a pump on Barnarda C. Besides that, I can also now make biocells. I need to first make sterilized biocatalyst medium, which is just fluid heating the raw biocatalyst medium, and then it goes in a chem reactor with stem cells and cosmic neutronium dust. And I get some mutagen back. Once I have these biocells, I can try to get this culture, which is used in the alternative to this recipe, which is the one that's currently going for raw biocatalyst medium. I could instead do this recipe, which uses infinity catalyst dust instead of unknown crystal shards and tritanium dust. But of course it uses biocells. So I need biocells. So lots of work to do. Let's get started. Now I am off to Barnarda C. Ooh, this is a cool place. Ow, 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 dude. Okay, so there is some stuff I need to get here. And that is specifically the wood. Ideally a sapling, because this is how I get my first raw radox, which will be used for making radox polymer plates in the future. I assume these just work like normal trees, and I just get a sapling. Yep, got a sapling. Cool, so that's basically infinite wood. Here is some unknown liquid. I could of course just bucket it up, but I think you can also pump it. So I'm gonna make a tunnel straight to bedrock and do my usual process of pumping. Oh, I had to look for a while. I found a lot of very heavy oil and only pretty small amounts of unknown liquid, if you ignore the giant ocean of it. So here I found a 60 to 100 field, then I found a 23 to 39 field, but finally I found a nice one, 153 to 253. And it's right next to 2 more unknown liquid fields if I need. Also at this point I can make the infinite oil gas fluid drilling rig. This, as it suggests, is infinite. So I can place one down and the field will never get depleted. That would be pretty nice. So I think I'll save this larger deposit for when I actually make that. And for now, I'll set up in the smaller deposit. And I'm just going to do a really simple setup using hog to power my oil gas fluid drilling rig. And then I'll send the liquid back through an ender tank. Basically the same as what I did for chlorobenzene on Mars. Now, to make my seaweed broth, I need this culture. And the culture is made by combining Tau Ceti E seaweed with unknown liquid. But you do need a UV biolab. 2.5% success chance, but that's honestly not so bad because it's very easy to get Tau Ceti E seaweed. Oh yeah, finally got it. This took a while. Now with this and the materials I mentioned before, I should be able to make plenty of seaweed broth. And remember, with a half full output hatch, this becomes 1001 times the amount. So it becomes about 50 buckets per 60 seconds. And one bucket is a stack of seaweed. So I don't think I'm gonna run out of seaweed anytime soon. The seaweed broth is slowly coming in, and pretty soon it'll be very quickly coming in. This is a little annoying to automate because I need to have enough unknown nutrient agar, I need to have enough of all of this stuff, which means I need to level maintain it or make new machines to dedicate to this, which is just a bit annoying. I'll deal with it though. I have to. And don't forget, you're gonna want to keep switching out these output hatches because of how the percentage thing works. This recipe goes all the way up to 50,000 liters per crafting cycle. So I'm gonna want to end with a pretty large output hatch. If I'm making 50k in every cycle, that's gonna take me pretty far away from 50% of the output hatch, unless the output hatch is really big. I made an LUV output hatch, but honestly, I don't think that's big enough to retain efficiency. So I think I am actually gonna make a UV hatch. That might be big enough. And cool. Seaweed broth. Easy. Cool. Now that biocells are done, the first thing I'm gonna do with these is try to unlock this recipe, which means hunting for this culture. Shouldn't be too difficult. 7.5% success chance is not bad. After that, I'll have to make the UV circuit assembler. I'll have to make the ultra bio mutated circuit board, which I will not do like this. I will instead use the PCB factory. Nothing new here. Only superconductor base UV foil, so it's a little expensive, but that's to be expected. After that, bioprocessing units, nothing new here either. The only thing is it's a UHV recipe, and I have my assembly lines parallelized, so I pretty much have to upgrade all of them if I don't want to do this by hand. The scan is a scan of the neuroprocessing unit, so this is easy. After that, I can make my first bioprocessor in a UV circuit assembler in a clean room, and then I can do the circuit assembly line. Then the BioWare processor assembly, same thing. Then the BioWare supercomputer. This one needs mutated living solder. So I will get to this point and then we'll talk about what to do to continue. So at this point, to continue, I'm gonna need infinity. And to get infinity catalyst out of infinity catalyst dust, I'm going to need a neutronium compressor, which looks like this. Big boy. This needs active neutronium casings, which are made from neutronium casings, which are also required. These are made with a lot of neutronium and europium reinforced radiation-proof machine casings, which are the radiation-proof machine casings from the large Naquata reactor, plus some europium and some lead. Also Naquata alloy frame boxes and neutronium stabilization casing, which is a bunch of stuff. Nothing too crazy though. And the controller itself is made in the Dyer crafting table. But honestly, there's not really much new here. There's some super dense bedrockium, there's some neutronium large plates, which are fine. Pretty easy. The Neutroneum Compressor is a surprisingly simple multi-block. You just you put stuff in and you get stuff out. That's it. And in fact, it's pretty cheap in terms of energy. It's just an HV recipe to go from infinity catalyst dust to infinity catalyst. And the Neutronium Compressor has a static 8 parallels, which makes it very easy to encode recipes once and for all. Now the infinity catalyst itself is useless, except to be turned into infinity ingots, and there's some other stuff too, but I'm not really that interested in any of these yet. To make infinity ingots, I need to do it in a Dyer crafting table or a Dyer auto crafting table, which is probably a smarter option, because I'm going to need a lot of infinity ingots. In the future, there will be better ways to convert from infinity catalyst into infinity, but for now, I'm gonna have to do it this way. So the Dyer auto crafting table is very cheap to make for me at this point. It's just EV parts and an IV circuit. So I'm gonna craft that. I'm not totally sure how it works, so I will figure that out as well and connect it to AE2 if that's possible, and I'll be back with my infinity ingot. Alright, this was pretty easy to set up actually. I don't know if this is really necessary, but this is how I have it. So I have my interface, Dyer table, with my recipe. It goes into this auto crafting table, where here I have shift-clicked the recipe into this interface. So it encodes it into this. So this auto crafting table can only do infinity ingots. And actually, I should make a note of that. So the items get pushed into this, and then the final product is extracted and sent back into the interface. Pretty simple. Now that we have infinity, we can talk about mutated living solder. For some reason the quest auto-completed itself, so I don't have the pop-up because I wasn't recording. But this can be made in a chem plant, a UEV chem plant made of botmium. So I need 2 UHV hatches. And mutated living solder is made from Bioels, Gravistars, Infinity Catalyst Dust, Infinite Mutation Catalyst. This needs Infinity Dust, as well as Nequadria, along with Gelid Cryothium, Bismuth Plasma, and Tin Plasma. Bismuth Plasma is made from zinc plasma and molten tantalum in a Mark III fusion reactor, and zinc plasma is made from tritium and molten copper. Meanwhile, tin plasma is made from helium-3 and molten silver, so this one's pretty easy. And that's how you get mutated living solder. Once I have that, I can continue on with making the Bioels supercomputer. This is an assembly line process, so I actually can't make more in a circuit assembly line, which is a bit strange, but sure, why not? And once I have this, I can make bio mainframes, the first UEV circuit. This is also an assembly line process. Along with that, Infinity has unlocked some other stuff. So there are some MISK endgame goals here, and I've had a look at some of these, and the ones I'm most interested in are the Blood Orb of Armok, Unlimited Life Essence. That's pretty good. I can summon any meteor, and I don't have to wait for my Blood Altar, it's just infinite LP. This is expensive though. It needs 4 Eldritch Blood Orbs, so I will hold off on this, but this is craftable at this point. This one is huge. Neutronium Energy Cell. Unlimited power for my AE network. And it's honestly not that expensive for what it is. So I might make this today, but I don't know if I should hook it up just yet. I mean, I will hook it up for the power, but so I'm thinking about rewiring my entire AE2 network, because this is not really enough space for a full-sized AE2 brain. And also, if I have infinite power, I can kind of get rid of the P2P subnet and just use wireless connectors everywhere. It's infinite power, so it's basically free. So I don't really need a P2P network anymore. But I do like the organization of having a P2P network. And also, I have all these maintenance tunnels, and they're only used at this point for P2P connections, so feels bad. I don't know, I'll think about it. Let me know what you guys think. Should I get rid of the entire P2P network and replace it with wireless connectors everywhere? There's also the infinite oxygen supply. It's okay. It's infinite oxygen for my spacesuit. And also this one, the Infinity Booster card. The quest says it's extremely buggy, but it also says many bugs were fixed. So I will hold off on making this until I learn more about whether it's buggy or not. But it's basically infinite wireless AE2 access. I will no longer need to place wireless access points all over the base. And it works across dimensions. That is huge. So yeah, Infinity has unlocked some nice stuff. One last thing I want to yap about before I continue on making circuits is that this thing is still so slow. I've upgraded it to ZPM. I don't remember if I showed that before, but it's still terribly slow. It's still 3.9 UU matter per second. That's very slow. Considering the amount of UU matter I need for the space elevator, this is not fast enough. This is going to be many hours of waiting. That said, I can cut down on the cost because I've looked into the circuits a little bit and asked around. And starting at the UHV circuit, or even the UV circuit, it's kind of cheaper to use the lower tier circuits. So it kind of inverts in the optimization. Before, it was like you want to use the circuit on this diagonal, like this, all the time. But that's no longer true. So for example, for UV circuits, I don't want to use the optical one. I actually want to use the crystal processor mainframe, because this actually ends up being cheaper. So starting at UV circuits, you kind of want to use this diagonal instead. That means for UHV circuits, as I need in the space elevator, I'll be using wetware mainframes. These are ultimately made from wetware processors, which so far have been using UU matter because they need neural processing units, and these need UU matter. But now that I'm in UHV, there's a new recipe here that doesn't use UU matter, and that is a significant upgrade. Even though it costs a lot more EU, and it needs living crystal chips, which are more infrastructure. The infrastructure in question, though, is just beamline, which is done. So this is totally doable for me. And in fact, I will be doing this because this is way cheaper than using neural processing units. So yeah, some changes need to be made around the base, and I will continue working on the space elevator. But for now, let's get back onto biocircuits. Now, I'd rather not make this a double UHV chemical plant because that's just kind of annoying, and it's gonna potentially cause things to power fail because it's just too much power. So I'm just going to batch craft some mutated living solder for the circuits that I need for the IOFs, the integrated ore factories. So to get the bismuth plasma, I need zinc plasma, like I said before, and to get zinc plasma, I need tritium. And tritium I could get from centrifuging deuterium, but that's shit because I can instead go to Neptune, where I already have a space station, and I can set up a gas siphon. I had this before for xenon, and that was a depth of 4. But now I need tritium, and this is a depth of 1. And the amount is 3,000, so I'm going to get 3 buckets per second. This is going to fill up really quick. Like, I only need a single gas siphon. And because it's not as deep, it doesn't use as much power. It's going to use a quarter of what each of the xenon pumps uses. And each of the xenon pumps, I think, uses 2 amps of ZPM, so this is going to use 2 amps of LUV, which is like nothing. So I'm going to set that up, get my fusions going. I don't think there's anything else crazy here. No other logistical issues, I don't think. And then I'll get my mutated living solder, and finally, I will get my circuits. And then we can make the integrated ore factory. Thank you for watching this episode of the HamCorp Training Manual. In the next episode, we will finish off the remaining biocircuits and start work on massively overhauling our ore processing system using integrated ore factories. Remember that while HamCorp now has literal infinity, the shareholders are still not satisfied, and we must continue to grow. See you next time.